Alright, we're running in here on an Enhancement Shaman, picking off some gear, so our item level's not too crazy high. We need to make sure we've got our lightning shield, our flame tongue weapon, and our wind fury weapon up. And yeah, build's looking like this right now for the talents. As usual, we're doing no conduits, no legendaries. What other Shadowlands crap is there? No set items. Yeah. So not totally mentally prepared for this, but we're going at it. So the Enhancement Shaman's definitely a bit different from the here in the Dragonflight Prepatch than the Shadowlands version. Shadowlands version was kind of weird, where Maelstrom for dungeons, there was this hailstorm thing. They called it hailstorm weapon before, but it's basically the same thing.
Fresh meat.
Which is there's this thing where sorry, I'm still distracted, trying to do damage and talk at the same time is still not very good at it. So yeah, Shadowlands version of the Enhancement Shaman, if you take the Hailstorm weapon talent, what it does is it like gives you super powerful shocks, and those shocks whoops, wrong button. And those shocks would sorry, frost shocks. And the frost shocks, like after you used Maelstrom, which gives you an instant cast spell essentially at 5 stacks, and that spell does more damage. Then the hailstorm makes your frost shocks do big damage and hit multiple targets based on how many stacks of Maelstrom you used to cast that spell. So you'd get these very strong multi-target frost shocks to hit multiple targets, which was I felt that to me it felt really weird. I didn't like the idea of frost shock hitting multiple targets. So that's still in, but there's a alternative to that now, is this Fire Nova thing, which is I guess we should probably lust. Yeah, so the Fire Nova thing is really weird. Definitely different. Where what it does is it does this Fire Nova thing from each enemy that has a flame shock on them. So the way that works is that Lava Lash now spreads a flame shock from a target that has flame shock on it to 4 other targets. So then you very easily can get multiple targets having the flame shock on them like that. And then since it's AoE from each target that has the flame shock, it ends up doing pretty good. I'm definitely not pressing all the right buttons in the right order. It's kind of a lot of buttons with this build to press. And also kind of forgetting to press some of my buttons as well. So that right there was some good damage though. We should also do this. Why am I taking so much damage? It's on my overall damage? No, current segment. Okay.
Your bones will adorn my armor.
So yeah, the Shadowlands Enhancement Shaman is like based around you build up stacks of this maelstrom weapon thing, which gives you I have the normal spell alerts, like these little lightning bolts on your screen. I have that disabled. I have a little weaker here, which essentially lights up green when I have an instant cast spell available. Let's see. We can hit this button, we hit this button, we hit this button, we hit this button. Alright. Who do I get to fight?
My blade knows no equal.
So we kind of destroyed the rogue there because we get the lightning lasso over here in the regular shaman tree. So that does like about half my HP's worth of damage if it lasts the full duration. So it's very strong for a single target. And then so we did lots of damage to him with that. And then we had a maelstrom weapon kind of want these guys to group up so I can spread the flame shock and then flame nova 'em or whatever it's called. We can also do the sunder, and we can do an instant cast chain lightning. So yeah, I did the to the rogue. I got him with the lightning lasso. Did most of his health and damage with that. Obviously in like real PvP, it'd probably like trinket out of it and whatnot, but yeah, then I had a maelstrom. I instant cast the elemental blast, which is if you get that talent, that's your strongest single target use of the instant cast maelstrom spell thing that you can do. For multi-target, you basically always want to do chain lightning, except if you have the primordial wave talent down here. That makes your next lightning bolt hit all your all the enemies that have flame shock on them, and that lightning bolt does like 150% extra damage or something. So it's come on, dude, group these guys up. So yeah, primordial wave down here is alright in single target, but better in multi-target. The elemental blasts, obviously good single target. The stuff here with Wind Fury weapon, these Wind Fury weapon talents are definitely single target only. Sundering is better for AoE, of course.
Your souls are mine to claim.
Let's see.
There is no escape for you.
Hit him with this, I guess. I should really... it's draining my soul. Yeah.
And advance to the final round. Return to the
Dungeon's going
chamber. It's
faster than
time
I
to
expected.
begin the main event. Soldiers of Mount Raxus, are you ready for some carnage?
So yeah,
A rising
the Lava Lash, there's some really good Lava Lash talents, and like I said earlier, I'm going with the Fire Nova instead of the Hailstorm, but basically they do relatively the same thing, as give you a bunch of multi-target damage. But the Hailstorm one relies on Frost Shock, and Frost Shock's in the regular Shaman tree, but I didn't even grab that because I don't think it's that good.
My magic reaches beyond your mortal ken.
Where's the thing? We can do this, I guess. I'm not sure if lightning lasso really should be in the general damage rotation at all. I haven't like really done the math on if it's worth it, but you can definitely do it in points where you're not able to be in melee range of your target. So yeah, let's look at what all the damage we did was. But we'll look at talents real quick again first, though. So Shaman Tree is it's got some damage stuff, a lot of utility kind of stuff. Definitely want to get the Astral Shift so that you can take a bunch less damage at certain points when you need to. You get Chain Lightning for free because it synergizes with Crash Lightning and generally the Maelstrom weapon thing. Like I said, you generally want to use Chain Lightning when there's multiple targets for your Maelstrom weapon instant cast. So yeah, so we get the Capacitor Totem. That's the big AoE stun one. I like to be able to remove curses from people. You don't get a ton of use out of it, but just certain dungeons there is something that you can remove the curse on, and it can be pretty helpful. Definitely get the Purge, because there's always some kind of magical buff that you can dispel that can really help out. A lot of these are little things. You don't get Lava Burst by default, but specifically for this Elemental Blast talent down here, this will Elemental Blast replaces Lava Burst, and if you have Lava Burst, you get an extra charge of Elemental Blast. So since Elemental Blast is your highest single target thing to use, single target spell to use for your instant cast Maelstrom spell, you want that for your single target rotation. Now if you were to not get Elemental Blast, I think Lava Burst would be better than Lightning Bolt for single target, because you get the guaranteed crit on them from having Flame Shock on them, assuming of course that you have put Flame Shock on them. So yeah, but Lava Burst has a cooldown of 12 seconds, so you would still be using some lightning bolts anyways. The Lava Burst by itself isn't really it's not really a great thing for the Enhancement Shaman, because that 12-second cooldown you can't can't do as much with it because of that. So yeah, let's see what else is in here. X isn't really important, but I get to get this Nature's Guardian thing, which gives you a heal, an automatic heal when you fall below a certain amount of health. Some extra movement speeds stuff over here that I like, but not too important. You really want to get the extra lightning bolt damage. Because like all this stuff over here is really strange. Really strange things. These don't really do anything for you as a. They're all like utility cooldown things and stuff that aren't really very useful. But this is damage. Thunderstorm isn't really damage, but you have to take it in order to get the lightning lasso. So yeah. You could definitely grab Healing Stream Totem over here if you wanted to. But I looked at it and the Healing Stream Totem doesn't heal much more in total than a Healing Surge. So if you're gonna spend an instant cast dropping a Healing Stream Totem compared to doing a Healing Surge at a 1.3 second cast, it's not that different. And if you're using any of your Maelstrom weapon stacks, if any of those go towards your Healing Surge, then your Healing Surge will end up doing better. Obviously, Healing Surge costs a lot more mana than Healing Stream Totem. But you're never gonna just stand still and cast a bunch of Healing Surges to the point that you ran out of mana, unless something has really, really gone wrong. So yeah, Healing Stream Totem isn't that great. I wish it was better, but it's not. The Ancestral Guidance down here is kind of like the Shadow Priest Vampiric Embrace thing. This was in the Shadowlands talent system, but it was more accessible. But now that it's down in this corner here, that you have to dedicate yourself more to healer talent points, I find it hard to justify. I liked it a lot on the it was on the Elemental Shaman, I think it was. I don't know if it was on the Enhancement Shaman. But it with the Stormkeeper, when you do the Giga Chain Lightning thing, that gives you a whole giant burst of damage that this worked really well on. But I don't know if it's really viable, because you have to spend too many points in healer talents. Yeah. With Elemental Shaman, I still get the Lightning Bolt and the Lightning Lasso stuff. So it's not really a fan of the Shaman tree too much. You could also get Earth Elemental. You could definitely get Earth Elemental. But other than that, and Frost Shock will be useful in some situations, but I decided not to get it. So there's a few differences in this tree that you could make for sure. But generally there's a bunch of stuff over here and on the left edge that is not useful to Enhancement Shaman. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of the tree. Now for the enhancement tree itself, this tree is pretty awesome. Everything in the tree is damaged except for these talents here. Your healing surge is 25% more effective on yourself, or cleanse, spirit, wind shear, and purge and totems can be cast in ghost wolf form, without breaking ghost wolf. So either of those is useful. I really wish they were on the tree on the left instead of over here though. Because I hate to give up damage for them. They're useful, but not something I want to give up damage for. So that's the way they initially described the talent trees. This seems like it really belongs in the left tree. And then stuff like lightning bolt, 20% damage. This really doesn't seem like it belongs here in the general tree. It could be in the right tree, the enhancement tree. But yeah, yeah. Let's just talk more about the tree over here. So in the enhancement tree, like I said, Wind Fury weapon and these Wind Fury weapon talents all the way down the left edge through Doom Winds. These are all single target damage things. And Wind Fury weapons all physical damage. Something to keep in mind because of the talent over here for increases all fire, frost, and nature damage dealt. So that will not do anything for your Wind Fury weapon, and it won't do anything for your auto attacks, and it won't do anything for Storm Strike. Storm Strike is physical damage. So you gotta keep in mind when you see that number of such and such physical damage, it's gonna get reduced a bit by armor. There's kind of some exceptions to this type of thing. Like Stormbringer now causes your next Storm Strike to deal 25% additional damage as nature damage. So it's that nature damage, of course, ignores armor. So and then the other thing is the mastery for an enhancement shaman increases your chance to trigger Stormbringer and Wind Fury weapons, and increases all fire, frost, and nature damage you deal. So that second part increases all fire, frost, and nature damage you deal. Like I said, that's going to be most of your damage, but does not include your auto attacks, your Wind Fury attacks, and your Storm Strikes. And stuff like if you have trinkets that do shadow damage like this one. So yeah. But other than those, mastery's pretty, that percentage damage is pretty good. But I don't know the math on it. It seems though that mastery is better for your AoE damage. Because yeah, the Wind Fury is all single target, Storm Strike is single target, and your auto attacks, of course, are single target. So all your physical damage is single target damage. There is this talent here, increases the chance for mastery enhanced elements to trigger Wind Fury and Stormbringer by 150%. So this does give me like it does boost your mastery for Stormbringer and Wind Fury, so it does boost that physical damage single target stuff. But I'm not taking these other Storm Strike talents. Okay, just do this thing to highlight them. Storm Strike. So yeah, there's talents here and here and here and here and here and here that are all based around Storm Strike. I'm not taking any of those ones. So this talent, I'm not really getting the maximum effect out of the Stormbringer part of it. But I do have all these Wind Fury talents. Well, there's only a couple Wind Fury talents here that I am getting a benefit out of. I'm not taking Doom Winds. Doom Winds maybe would be a better talent to take than this for me. I'm not really sure. I didn't really want another cooldown button to press though. So yeah. Single target damage. Talked about that quite a bit. Lava Lash has some great talents. I don't like I don't like all of them so much, especially this last one, which I decided not to take. Lava Lash increases the damage of Flame Shock on its target by 100% for 20 seconds. That's basically a single target talent. You could, of course, Lava Lash different targets with Flame Shock on them in multi-target scenarios, but switching between targets just to increase your Flame Shock damage is not really worth the effort. So that's basically a single target damage talent, and I'm more about the AoE, so with the Fire Nova there. Now this talent makes each explosion from Fire Nova give you a stack of Maelstrom weapon. So if you Flame Shock a dude and then use Lava Lash to spread the Flame Shock to 4 enemies near the target because of this talent, and then you Fire Nova, then your Flame Shocks, you'll have 5 Flame Shocks up, so you get 5 Fire Novas. So it's a pretty good burst of AoE damage, assuming they're all clumped up. Well, your Flame Shocks wouldn't spread to them if they're not clumped up anyways. But yeah, that's pretty good damage, and this talent gives you, in those situations, it gives you a nice burst of Maelstrom weapon to cast a Chain Lightning. So that's pretty nice. But what this talent also does is it makes Ice Strike give you a guaranteed stack of Maelstrom weapon. So Ice Strike, otherwise I don't think I would take Ice Strike. So the good thing about Ice Strike is it's frost damage. So it's about the same damage as Storm Strike, but because it's frost damage, it ignores armor, which means that when you ice strike a guy, it's gonna do more damage than storm striking a guy, particularly without these other talents which make Storm Strike better. Storm Strike's just got a lower cooldown. So for damage rotations type stuff, Ice Strike it'll do more damage for you than Storm Strike, and with this specific talent setup, and it gives you the guaranteed Maelstrom weapon stack. So that's one of the reasons I got Ice Strike. The other reason is Crash Lightning. When you hit 2 or more targets, then your Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Lava Lash also deal some amount of AoE damage. So because Storm Strike and Lava Lash both have cooldowns on them, it's good to have Ice Strike available to also be able to press for more AoE damage. So those all get used in your rotation after you Crash Lightning, so that you can do some AoE damage with all 3 of those as you're using those to build up more Maelstrom weapon stacks, so that you can Chain Lightning and then do more Crash Lightning, as well as your other AoE stuff like the Fire Nova and Sundering. So yeah, let's see what other things. You definitely want this thing where the Maelstrom weapons, your instant cast spell that you get is gonna do 100% more damage essentially from that talent. And I like this talent where you can have a total of 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. It's not so much about being able to cast 2 instant spells back to back. It's more that you don't want to have like 3 stacks and then you Fire Nova and you get 5 more stacks, but because you had a cap of 5, you only get 2 more stacks. You don't want those stacks wasted. So it's just to help you not waste Maelstrom weapon stacks, essentially, is why this talent's so good. This talent below it lets your spells actually use all 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks, but I don't really like that. It would definitely let you do giga damage with like Elemental Blast, for example, if you wanted to do a single giant Elemental Blast, but I don't think it's that great to be able to do that, so I don't like that one. A Feral Lunge is not a terrible ability per se, but I think the cooldown's too high. I really wish Enhancement Shaman could I don't know, it's sort of like a charge for a warrior, the warrior charge, but it's got this 30-second cooldown, which isn't so great. And I think the range might be a bit shorter also. So I don't think it's yeah, I don't think it's terribly good. Not worth the point compared to all the damage we can get, I'd say. Wind Fury Totem. I haven't actually tried it here in the Dragonflight pre-patch, but I hated in Shadowlands dropping your Wind Fury Totem every freaking dungeon trash fight at the start of every fight, basically. I hated having to press that button every fucking time. So I'm glad that we can just completely skip this button and not have to press it. So I did that. Let's see. So you definitely want 40% crash lightning damage and chain lightning hits to 2 extra targets for dungeons. That's very good for that. This one, for each target hit by crash lightning, increases the damage of your next storm strike. Storm Strike's a single target damage ability that you're buffing in a multi-target type of situation. Yes, you will press Storm Strike because it gives you the AoE damage. And because it'll help generate Maelstrom weapon stacks as well. Like, it's definitely a button that you'll press, but this doesn't it doesn't really help all that much, I think. So I don't really like that talent. Let's see. So Primordial Wave. Let's look at our bottom talents. So we have a total of, how many points do we get to spend down here? So currently we can spend 5 points in the bottom 3 rows. But as you can see, I have not spent 5 points in the bottom 3 rows. So I'm not really sure about the options down here, but I really like Primordial Wave for AoE. You get the lightning bolts, the extra strong lightning bolts on all targets that have flame shock on them. So big multi-target damage. I like this talent where it gives you 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. It's just a quality of life thing, really, is that it allows you to cast Primordial Wave and you will always have 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon to instantly cast that lightning bolt right afterwards. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure if this talent's all that great. You can go farther down here, and it'll give you a pretty good haste buff for multi-target situations. But I feel like the rotation for damage for the Enhancement Shaman is a little too complicated to really make the full use of haste. Because it's not like some other classes where you can just keep spamming the same spell over and over again. Or the same like 2 or 3 abilities. For the Enhancement Shaman, we're talking about AoE damage. You're starting off with your Flame Shock. You're doing your Lava Lash to spread your Flame Shock. You're doing your Fire Nova to do AoE damage. You're doing your Sundering to do AoE damage. You're using your Primordial Wave lightning bolts to do the thing, which will give you the haste buff. And then from there, you're using Lava Lash, Ice Strike, and Storm Strike after you crash lightning, of course, to do AoE damage and build up Maelstrom stacks. You'll spend your Maelstrom stacks on Chain Lightning. Elemental Blast. Hard to say exactly how many targets at which you should Chain Lightning. I'm not sure if 3 targets you should Chain Lightning Or if it's, or if you elemental blast until it's 4 targets to chain lightning, it's somewhere around there. But yeah, you gotta figure out how many enemies there are, decide whether you're doing that. You're casting your feral spirit if you got that, like I do, just to get more maelstrom weapon stacks, so that you can do more chain lightnings, basically. So there's several buttons that you're essentially watching the cooldowns for to do your AoE damage rotation. So that's why I don't like the haste buff that you get from putting points down here. I do like Feral Spirit, like I mentioned. It just gives you free Maelstrom weapon stacks, so more damage, of course. There's points down here, which I'm not terribly sure how good these are. But reducing the cooldown of Feral Spirits whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon is pretty good. I was playing around with it before where I wasn't getting this point here and then Fire, Frost, and Nature damage. I was putting 1 point here. I haven't tried with a second point here because it's a very well pruned tree. I don't really want to give up any of this other stuff, but if I had to, it would be this Wind Fury weapon third attack thing, which is this. But this is essentially 50% more damage of Wind Fury weapon. If I take out that point, then my Wind Fury weapon damage, Wind Fury attack, will be about 2/3 as much damage as it is currently. So lose a couple percent damage, but it's more important on like the boss fights. It's a generally higher percent of your damage for a single target, but it's a very RNG thing. So sometimes it's actually lower. So it's yeah. So on one boss here, it's 9% of my damage. So I'd lose like 3% of my damage if that was accurate for all these. But it's just it definitely varies. But it's single target damage that you lose out if you change that point. So yeah, those are good. These ones at the bottom center, I don't like those talents for the Feral Spirit, so I wouldn't get those. These ones here on the sides for Storm Strike are probably okay for single target damage builds, where you're investing more into Storm Strike. But I would not do that if you're doing this Primordial Wave type of thing. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly where you go for a Storm Strike build. But you definitely want either Ascendance or this other one. We're using Storm Strike, has a chance to activate Ascendance. And then you get a bunch of Maelstrom weapon stacks from there, which is good. And I don't think this is... I don't know, maybe this is good. It'll auto cast spells for you, just so that it doesn't use the global cooldown, so that you can spend more time whacking on things without casting the spells yourself. So maybe that talent's good. Not really sure. But yeah, overall dungeon build looks like this. And yeah, lots of tough decisions here in this tree on the right, which I really like. If the tree has tough decisions, that means it's essentially it's pretty well balanced as compared to some of the other classes and specs where it's like, well, this talent sucks, this talent sucks, this talent sucks. Let me just dodge all these talents that suck and get the good ones, and then I'm like super confident that my build is really good. Whereas this one, it's like definitely you could try some other things to go for more of a physical damage single target build. But yeah, certainly the Enhancement Shaman here in the Dragonflight Prepatch plays a bit different. But does decent enough. I didn't actually look at the gear of these other guys in the party, but they had roughly the same amount of health as me, so I think they were roughly the same amount of gear. So maybe the Enhancement Shaman's bad, or maybe I didn't play it very well. I'm not terribly sure on that. I haven't played this spec too much so far. Played it several dungeons though, just to try out different talents and stuff, and of course I've messed around with the target dummies a bit to see what the damage is. But you can see here I'm not doing so awesome against my fellow DPS here on the boss fights, so it seems like the single target damage isn't too good. Actually, that boss fight's not really a good example, just because the mechanics of it. The mechanics of this one's the PvP boss fight, so that's not a good one either. So yeah, maybe not the best of examples for a dungeon, but yeah, in the overall damage wasn't terrible and definitely could play better. But outside of Sundering and Fire Nova and Primordial Wave Lightning Bolts, your AoE damage isn't that great. So we'll just look here real quick. Look at the last boss real quick. So single target damage Lots of lava lash, because of the hot hand. If hot hand procs, then your lava lash does extra damage and has a lower cooldown. So that's kind of my main ability out of lava lash, ice strike, and storm strike. That's kind of the main one that I spam. Out of habit, I usually am pressing storm strike more than I'm pressing ice strike. But also storm strike has the Stormbringer cooldown resets for it, and it has a lower base cooldown by default. So you'll always end up pressing Storm Strike more than Ice Strike. But I'm just not very good at prioritizing Ice Strike over Storm Strike like I should be. So you'll see that on the damage charts where Ice Strike is always gonna end up lower than Storm Strike. Got the Lightning Lasso in there for times when you can't really be hitting the target, but also it's just fairly decent damage. Yeah, it's pretty decent damage. Better to just hit the target if you can. There's also times where if Lava Lash and Ice Strike and Storm Strike were all on cooldown, that's probably a good time to Lightning Lasso. Assuming you don't got the Maelstrom stacks to cast a Lightning Bolt or a Elemental Blast. Lightning Bolt only if Elemental Blast is off cooldown, or if you did the Primordial Wave to get the empowered Lightning Bolt thing. So yeah, so many things to consider there in the single target damage, but that's about what it works out to. And then for our overall damage, yeah, we got still lots of Lava Lash, but that's this is including the boss fights, of course. So this isn't just overall damage, isn't just purely AoE damage. I wish the details like separated out trash packs and boss damage in a better way so I could look at it. But yeah, you're still pressing Lava Lash in AoE situations, so that's why it's still the top damage. Lightning Bolt you're using mostly off of Primordial Wave, because you're using Chain Lightning usually in multi-target situations, and you're using Elemental Blast if it's not on cooldown for single target situations. We got the Flame Shocks in there, we got Sundering, we got Fire Nova, so some largely AoE damage stuff. We're always meleeing, we always get Wind Fury attacks. Chain Lightning, I've definitely seen higher on my damage though before. Not sure if this was a fluke or what. But yeah, apparently that's what that worked out to. Not being as much damage as I've seen in the past. And then Storm Strike and Ice Strike just end up being fairly low on the damage. Actually, my Crash Lightning damage is a lot lower than I expected also. That's really weird. I've, maybe I was forgetting to press Crash Lightning. only 16 casts of Crash Lightning. Because you should, anytime there's at least 2 targets, you're pressing Crash Lightning. So one of these is the damage from Crash Lightning itself, and one of them is the damage that procs from Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Lava Lash. So I think it's that second one, the one that procs from the other ones, which is usually the higher damage. But yeah, my Crash Lightning damage and my Chain Lightning damage are definitely lower than other times I've seen. Yeah, maybe I just played the dungeon bad. Because those should definitely be higher. But, yeah. It's just all kind of complicated. So now that we're done looking at our damage breakdown again, we can look at the actual single target damage stuff real quick. So single target, we definitely, particularly if you're getting the cooldown reduction or your feral spirits, you're gonna be using your wolves all the time. But yeah, generally you're gonna bring up your wolves for single target. You're gonna flame shock them. You're gonna hit your bigger abilities like Sunder and Primordial Wave. And Primordial Wave, Lightning Bolt, just to get your bigger damage stuff, all your cooldowns going, of course. And you can also do whichever trinket you got as well. And then you're doing just the rotation of, if you have Maelstrom weapon stacks for the instant cast, you do the Elemental Blast. And then when you don't have enough stacks for instant Elemental Blast or Lightning Bolt, if both of those are on cooldown, then you're pressing your Lava Lash, your Ice Strike, your Storm Strike. Sorry, I keep forgetting this stupid thing where if I'm hovering over the button it doesn't work. And then as your cooldowns come back up off of cooldown, you're doing it all again. And then in these situations where Lava Lash and Ice Strike and Storm Strike are on cooldown, then Lightning Lassos, that's a good time to Lightning Lasso. But yeah, so many cooldowns to look at, and then it's yeah. So there's definitely situations where you got things on cooldown. You can Crash Lightning just as filler in single target, but if your Crash Lightning doesn't hit 2 targets, then you don't get the bonus damage from the Lava Lash and Ice Strike and Storm Strike. It's this buff here. So I have a little weak aura next to my main Maelstrom weapon weak aura to show when that's up, but my eyes aren't really there on the screen, so I should make something like much bigger and more noticeable, really. But yeah, it's very hard to play this rotation properly, essentially. It's a really big quality of life thing that they have where your lava lash spreads the flame shock. Because not only is it spreading the flame shock, but it also resets the duration of the flame shock on your target. So you don't have to press flame shock every 20 seconds or whatever it is. 18 seconds apparently. So otherwise you'd have to add that to your single target damage rotation too. And it would be even more of a pain. So let's look at current segment. Obviously I wasn't really going full throttle, so don't worry about the exact DPS, but the general damage breakdown of this is roughly accurate, with the exception that the flame shock was getting spread to this training dummy next to the one I was hitting. So stupid thing. So the flame shock damage is essentially twice as high as what it should be for single target. But apart from that, you can see elemental blast at the top with lava lash, and then lightning bolts from our primordial wave. That's probably a bit high for single target, because I was going slow. So in the amount of time that I spent there, I should have been doing more damage with other buttons than primordial waves. And similar sunder damage is probably too high on here also. Just because I wasn't really making the most of the time. So when the cooldowns came back up, I was like pressing them. So it's yeah, I guess the damage of those cooldowns on here is a bit higher than it should be for single target damage. So yeah. And then multi-targets. Similarly, you can throw out your feral spirits at the start as well, but you're flame shocking, you're lava lashing to spread the flame shock. In this case, though, you are fire novaing for big AoE damage, and because of this talent, it gives me a bunch of maelstrom, at which we chain lightning to spend our maelstrom. We primordial wave. Well, I've taken too long to explain this, so we need to get our flame shocks back up. But we primordial wave to allow ourselves to get the lightning bolt, which hits all the targets. We sunder, of course, because it's just good AoE damage, and then when your maelstrom weapon stacks are up, we do more chain lightning. When they're not up, we need to make sure that we have crash lightning up before we spam our lava lash, ice strike, and storm strike to build more maelstrom weapon stacks up. But don't forget to keep your flame shocks up with the lava lash. As long as you have flame shocks up, each time you lava lash, it essentially refreshes the flame shocks on all of them. So as long as you keep up with that, you're good. And then Fire Nova, when that comes up off of cooldown. So it's yeah, the AoE is just fairly complicated. Let's get our dogs out here. Let's do this. 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 Let's chain lightning. Let's crash lightning. Do this all over again. Another chain lightning. We got this. Our Fire Nova came back up again. Chain lightning some more. We need to crash lightning again. Chain lightning. That should have been that. We got this. More of this. So it's so many things to look at. You could definitely make like some weak Rs to just better keep track of what buttons you should be pressing, or organize your buttons in a way that helps you to more easily see what buttons you need to be pressing. Either way. Oops. Can't forget that. That. Dog's back up again. Yeah. Lots of stuff going on. That. And I forgot that one again. And Primordial Wave. Sundering. I'm not actually sure if you should be pressing Crash Lightning essentially when it comes off a cooldown, or if it's better to only press it when you don't have the Crash Lightning buff. But I find it hard to really keep track of whether or not I have the Crash Lightning buff up. So maybe it is better to just prioritize pressing it more than you need to, rather than accidentally getting yourself in a situation where you're not pressing it enough and you're using other abilities without the Crash Lightning buff. So yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Let's look at what this AoE damage breakdown looks like on our test dummies. So Yeah, more along the lines of what I was expecting earlier is lots of chain lightning damage. Crash lightning and fire nova in this case end up about the same amount of damage because crash lightning is the damage of the ability itself, and then the second one of the triggered damage from lava lash and ice strike and storm strike. Triggered AoE damage, so combined those give you about the same amount of damage as your fire nova on here. Keep in mind that's with 5 targets like I had here. Your fire nova will be, damn it, your fire nova will be less damage when there's less targets with the flame shock, obviously. It's very strong when there's 5 or more targets, but when there's only like 3 targets, definitely not as good. And as we saw with the overall damage in the dungeon, not terribly great, but I still like it for the Maelstrom generation with that other talent. So yeah, we have lightning bolt on there because we are primordial wave lightning bolting. That's the only time you do regular lightning bolt in multi-target situations. Otherwise, you're doing the chain lightning instead. As soon as you have 2 enemies, chain lightning does more damage than lightning bolt. So yeah. Sundering is a little lower on the damage than I expected it, to be honest, but it goes to show that it's not that important per se, but Sundering will incapacitate enemies that you hit for 2 seconds, which damage will break it, of course, but it's like a sort of like a AoE interrupt type of thing, like a mini stun. So it's just really useful, and if I were to not get Sundering, I'd have to spend it to get to Crash Lightning. I'd have to spend it in one of these other talents that I don't like anyways. So even though Sundering isn't that great in the grand scheme of things for damage, it's still pretty good. And then yeah, Lava Lash, Ice Strike, and Storm Strike aren't very high, but Lava Lash is still the top one, just because you get the hot hands. Oh my god, the damage is fucked up because I spent so long talking that the Wind Fury weapon and Flame Tongue weapon enchantment things expired. So yeah. I forgot about that. Whoops. So yeah. Lava Lash would be more damage if I hadn't have screwed that up. And yeah, we're just completely missing Wind Fury weapon damage out of here. So I guess I missed that in the single target damage as well, probably. Oh well, too late now. You get the idea. Very complicated as far as damage rotation goes. But you can certainly pick your talents a little bit differently. Yeah. You can definitely pick your talents a bit differently to make your situation a little bit simpler. But it's still going to be a bit complicated compared to a lot of other classes. More decisions to be made in your damage rotation, more cooldowns to watch and whatnot.